Hi, I'm Marlow Artis. Thank you so very much for visiting my blog, Tar Heel Teachers. Today I am at the offices of Weston Homes, which is owned and operated by Greg West. He is currently the chair of the Cumberland County Board of Education, and he's seeking re-election. Mr. West, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for coming to my office.
I do appreciate it. For those individuals who may not know you, what would be 3 adjectives that exemplify who you are as a school board member?
I think hardworking is the first one I would use. Compassionate, and what's the third one? Dedicated.
Dedicated. How confident are you about your re-election?
Well, I feel good about the work I've done, or that the board has done over the last 12 years, and I've been fortunate to be chairman 3 times, and I'm very engaged. So I think the public is or the citizens of Cumberland County are satisfied. There's always room for improvement, so I'm not taking it for granted. I'm working hard to earn every vote and asking people for their vote. But there's some good candidates running, so it's always fun to on election night to see how things shake out. So
how things turn out.
That's right. So it's going to be a good race. There's several candidates working hard, and I look forward to a debate tonight, or a forum tonight at Terry Sanford High School at 7:30 tonight. So it's busy season. We've got about 30 days left until the election.
Now who's sponsoring that forum?
So that's the Student Government Association at Terry Sanford. So all of the county commissioner candidates and the Board of Education candidates will be there tonight.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
That's
so
pretty exciting.
So we're excited.
News to me. I didn't know about that.
There's a lot going on.
I guess I'll follow you over there.
It's the silly season here these last 30 days till election.
So there are 3 seats up for grabs. Do you anticipate that this may bring a major shift in policies and procedures for the board, since you are the only one who's running, who's on the school board?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's not likely, because there's 9 members on the board, and so the 6, what's up for election now are the 3 at-large seats. So we represent the entire county, and then the county is also divided into 6 districts. Those are up on a staggered term, so in 2 years we'll re-elect those seats. So it's doubtful that there'll be a major shift because of there are 9. Mm-hmm. As I said, so 6 will still be seated, but you never know. Financing is out of our control for the most part, so we can't raise taxes, and we're at the mercy of the county commissioners and the legislature. So it's not like we could do anything major on our financing other than be advocates, and we'll talk about that later, but that's one of the main roles of the school board. But I don't see a major shift happening regardless of the outcome of the election.
You talk about the county commissioners. How close is the relationship between the board and the county commissioners? Is that important that as a school board member that you develop those relationships? Sure.
So we've got a real strong working relationship with them now. There's 7 county commissioners, and we're the largest line item in their budget. We're half of their budget of the tax revenue in the county goes to fund public education. So it's important to them, but they know we're elected to run the school system. So we've just reached a funding agreement for the next 4 years that stabilizes what they give us. And as the county grows, our revenue grows. So it takes a lot of the uncertainty out of budgeting, which, as you know, at home or in any budget, uncertainty is not good. You can't plan around uncertainty. And that's what's been so hard these last several years with the North Carolina economy not recovering as fast as we'd like it to be. There's been a lot of uncertainty and led to some hard decisions we've had to make. But as far as the county commissioners, 2 of our board members are running for county commissioner. So it would be interesting if they were they're going to have an inside track to knowing what our needs are and what our pains are, and hopefully be even better advocates for us.
Mm-hmm. So, in your opinion, what's the chief role of a school board member?
So, by North Carolina statute, our 2 responsibilities are to set policy, mm-hmm. and then to hire the superintendent, and that's really where our fiduciary obligations ends. Beyond that, I like to say our main role is to be a cheerleader or an advocate for public education, and lately that advocacy's been in Raleigh, is where we've had to try to make a difference. And I think we've lent Dr. Till to the conversation in Raleigh, and both the legislature and the governor have appreciated his insight, us being the 4th largest district in North Carolina, and he has helped shape some of the policies and laws that were made this past session, and as well as helping us get a raise through that had been a long time coming. So the main role of the school board, beyond setting policy and making sure the superintendent and the administration follows that policy, is to advocate for what's right for public education.
Speaking of teacher salary and those types of things, and being an advocate, what are your thoughts on the salary that was set back in August, back in July?
So the legislature simplified the steps and simplified the pay scale from, I think, 37 steps to 6 steps. But beyond that, they implemented what they are saying is a 7% raise across the board, but obviously it wasn't uniformly distributed. It was weighted more toward the newer teachers, and I understand the point behind that is we were well behind our peer states on entry-level teacher or young teacher pay, so they weighted it there to get, I think, the starting teachers up to 33,500 with the goal of getting to 35,000. So I understand the point behind that. That was a good start, and I think now we've got to look at the mid-career and the later career teachers to get them some raises that are past due.
Are there any incentives that we can implement or that has been implemented during your tenure that could get our teachers in Cumberland County to stay and want to be part of the Cumberland County? Because that's North Carolina and that's what the state pays. But what are some incentives that we could share with our teachers that may not be money-based but could at least be an incentive to get them to stay?
Well, unfortunately, Marlow, everything revolves around money for the most part, and our hands are kind of tied there. We've got a modest supplement. I'd like to see us do more with our supplement, but again, that comes from the county commissioners. That's local money put on top of what the state pays, and unfortunately, our tax base is one of the 10th lowest. So there's 100 counties in North Carolina. Our tax base is in the bottom 10% as far as per capita. So we just don't have the ability to raise taxes easily here because our rate is already relatively high because our tax base is relatively low. So Cumberland County is in a tough spot. Our largest employer, Fort Bragg, doesn't pay property taxes. So you can't compare it to the Research Triangle Park or other areas. So, you know, our hands are tied on money, but I'd like to think as far as working conditions and the professional development that goes on in growing teachers, that we're second to none. I mean, I've heard that we do a good job of growing our people, providing opportunity, and hopefully creating a great place to work. And so that's some of the intangibles that hopefully will offset what we may come up a little bit short on the money end. And I'm just praying that times get better and our economy improves, and we get back to where we were in the early 2000s and before you probably got into teaching.
Just a little bit before.
Just a little bit. But when times were a little bit better, we weren't worried so much about money, because that it's taken some of the joy out of being on the school board, but it's important work, and that's why I wanted to keep doing it.
So what would you say is one of the major milestones or initiatives that has been implemented since you've been on the school board? You've been on the school board since 2002.
Correct. So this is finishing my 3rd term, seeking my 4th. I ran make sure I don't forget the question, but just to digress, I ran in 2002 because nobody on the board had children in school. And that was one I looked up, and it was mostly retired educators. And while it's important to have some of their perspectives on the board, you need diversity and perspective on any governing body. So I ran, was elected. I've been elected twice since. But two of the milestones I'll speak of. One was early in my career, and being in my 30s when I got on the board, I was the youngest school board member. Still am the youngest school board member, 12 years later. But was making us go digital. I said if we're going to model and expect that out of our teachers and our students, we would get binders delivered to our house before every committee meeting and then before the board meetings. And I knew there was a way to on Board Docs was a website that I was familiar with that makes e-governance, where everything government does is put online. So the public can view it, and then we can review it at home and not just have a whole department devoted to printing copies. So everything we do now is on Board Docs, and it's old hat now because it's probably been there 8 years that we've been doing it. But that was kind of saying, hey, if we're going to expect we've got to model what we expect.
Right.
And so I led that initiative, and we don't think twice about it now, and it's made life much easier for the administration and hopefully the public and the board members. So that was a while back. Recently, just last year, we were named a Broad finalist for the Broad Prize. We didn't win. Houston, Texas won, but we were named one of the top 4 school districts in the country, in the nation, for reducing the achievement gap between minorities and whites, and among a few other measures, but that was the most notable measure, was how we worked to reduce the achievement gap. So I'm proud of that, because that's, you don't apply for that award. You are nominated. All the urban districts in the country are reviewed, and you are put into it. You can't apply to it. So it's nothing we sought for ourselves. We were recognized by a recognized panel, a national panel, and we are one of the top 4. So we'll take that.
That's great.
Right.
You mentioned earlier that when you first got on the school board, you were the only parent.
Right.
So as it stands now, why is it important that your kids attend Cumberland County? Because there's so many different options now, charter schools, private schools. Why is it important that your kids are educated in the system?
Well, it goes way back. I mean, my grandfather served on a rural school board in Sampson County, a little one-room school, K-12 school. He was president of that school board. And my mom grew up on the farm, but went to Atlantic Christian College in Wilson, became a teacher, and taught 36 years
Wow.
in Fayetteville City. And then when we merged in 1985, Cumberland County Schools, I certainly went to public schools and on to NC State. And
I forgive you for that.
Well, I know we have a little thing going on. And you notice he chose the blue room to interview me, and I should have worn a red shirt. But so I'm a product of public education, and I just believe that we're all in this together. And I was bused out of my neighborhood when just after segregation happened, to far away from my neighborhood, and our schools were pretty 50-50 racially. And some of my best friends growing up weren't like me, and that shaped me. And I think it's important that we all learn to get along as early as we can, because we're going to be forced to later in life. And so I believe that we're all in it together, and I think my kids are doing well and achieving well, but they need to be with kids who are struggling, and the kids who are struggling need to have kids who are getting it to model that for them. And so I think it's just important that they all get to 12th grade by the end of 12th grade. Some years are better than others. My kids have experienced that. Every year is not perfect,
Right.
but it's a continuum to get to 12th grade, and then have choices after that. So I just think that the private and the charter options don't offer the breadth and the depth of the experience that we have. We have 7,500 kids on IEPs. We take all comers, and they're all God's children, and we treat them and do the best we can for them. And others don't take all comers. So I'm proud of what we're doing and what we are, and we just got to keep getting better and better every day.
That's good. So if you had to assess the school board, if you had to give them a letter grade, what letter grade would you give?
Oh, geez, so I'm grading them on paper now, is what you're saying. So I always gave myself A's when I graded them on paper, but
the board collectively.
Yeah, let's just say a B plus.
A B plus.
Yeah, I mean, we have had to make some tough decisions in tough times. We've got scarce resources, and they're getting more scarce. But we've managed our money well, and we've kept an administration in place. And again, we don't make all the minutia decisions. We're at 30,000 feet is our role. 5 years ago, I was on the board when Dr. Harrison was summoned to Raleigh to work with the State Board of Education. Governor Perdue called me and said she would like for Dr. Harrison to come to Raleigh. And I said, well, that's great for him, but that's going to leave us without a superintendent. Well, I was fortunate to be chairman then, and we did a national search and got Dr. Frank Till from Florida. And he had big school system experience. And I like to think he's been a big part of our success in tough times. So I'm looking forward to expanding economy when the good times are coming, and hopefully when you're performing well during tough times, it'll take off during good times. So, you know, the board, we've worked well in tough times, made some tough decisions, and 89% of our schools reached expected or met or exceeded expected growth last year. 89% of our 88 schools did that. So, and we've got 58.5% of our kids on free and reduced lunch. So, you know, there's challenges all around, and I think we've met them. Could we have done better? Absolutely. So that's why there's always room for improvement.
What would be one area that you think that we need to improve? Like, what's something that in this next term, this is something that you really want to improve and that you'll inspect closely?
Well, you know, you manage what you measure. I firmly believe that. And so, you know, with Ron Phipps, we are using data through Power School and other sources, using data more than we ever have to the student level. We used to look at it at school building level, and now, you know, then it was grade level, and now, but we're drilling down to the student level, and that means the teacher level too. We're seeing what teachers are effective, who are moving those kids and who's not moving the kids. So that being said, we have reduced our dropout rate from, well, let's just say dropouts from in the 600s a year, 600, 700 kids a year just 5 years ago. Last year there were 271 dropouts. It's 1.75%, I think. It by far exceeds the state average. But that's still 271 kids that aren't getting an opportunity. And we know the difference a high school diploma makes is hundreds of thousands of dollars over a lifetime, if not more. And it breaks a cycle too in a family unit. So we certainly want as many kids as can go to college, but we got to get those last 271. And one thing I've been saying is, they're not numbers. What's their name? What's their name?
Wow.
Because with when the 600s or 700s, it was almost intimidating number to get your hands around. But when you're down to 270, that's about 20. We got 10 high schools. That's 25 per high school. That's one sheet of notebook paper. Right, it's a classroom. That's a great way to put it. Or a sheet of paper if I was making a list that's manageable now. And so we're trying to say, what are their names? Get behind them, figure it out. And so our social workers are a big part of that. And then additionally, you've seen the Mentoring Works initiative throughout the community with the United Way and others, where we're really trying to pair up, especially the at-risk kids, with another adult. They may just have one adult at home. Hopefully we can get another one there that cares about them, visits them at the school, and has some accountability without the pressure of a parent. Because my kids sometimes don't want to hear from me or don't want to heed my advice, but another caring adult, you can't have too many. So we're reaching out to the churches and the faith community and certainly United Way and other partners to get mentors. So I really want us to push that, because again, the school board can't get down into too much about the running of the school building, but I think as far as being advocates in the community, we can push this mentoring. I think we had 700 and some mentors last year. Dr. Till and the United Way, Robert Hines at the United Way have said let's double it this year. So we're really trying to get the word out, and I do that when I go on radio interviews. I'm certainly doing it here on this for the teachers. Don't have to participate. You've got 30 or more kids each, but for the community, especially retired educators and retired folks in our churches, retired military, reach out, whether it's on the Cumberland County website or the United Way website. Look for Mentoring Works and find out ways you can give an hour a week. Is all we're asking to make a difference in the life of a kid.
That's fantastic.
And it's not, as Dr. Till says, it's not tutoring algebra. Don't be intimidated. It's just showing up and showing a kid you care.
That's good. Last question. Why is it important that you're reelected?
Okay. The main reason I think it's important is because there's a steep learning curve in public education. My challengers, and they're all great people, you know, say they've got the answers, but it's complicated. It's big. It's a big organization, 7,000 employees, a $430 million budget, larger than the city of Fayetteville's budget, larger than the Cumberland County's budget. And I think it's important to have stability on a governing body. We're already going to have 2 new members on the board, because the two incumbents aren't running again, so I'm the only incumbent. So I think it's doubly important that I get reelected because I've got the experience and the familiarity with being chairman 3 times to help shape the direction of the board going forward. You know, certainly we're going to get 2 new board members regardless. So I think it's important for me to be there for some stability. And like I said, the learning curve is steep, and I've been through that. I've paid my dues, and I think again, with 3 children, and there's a few folks running that may have kids in school, I'm not sure, but I've got one in elementary school, middle school, and in high school. So I get it all day, every day at the house. My wife, Christy, is teaching 4th grade at Van Story Elementary. And so for those reasons, I think my youngest will graduate in 2025. So I'm going to be a stakeholder for a long time. So, but mainly I enjoy serving. I think it's a calling, and I've been asked to do county commissioner and city council, but my heart's right here, right now. So I want to keep serving where my heart is.
Great. Thank you so very much for taking the time to speak with me, have me in your office, the Carolina room, and I wish you the best.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Good job.